Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about product companies and consultancies. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, do you prefer working in a product company or a consultancy and why? Well, the short answer is that I prefer product companies usually, and the reason is because you have in many cases more control over your work environment, your development process, and you kind of know what you're getting. You're buying when you get into a product company, uh, within a while of working there, you should start to figure out, okay, this is sort of the way that things are done at this company, and which is a nice thing. Comfort and having a sensation of understanding of your environment is a good thing, I think, at least for me. And apart from that, there's usually more of a quality mindset around processes and work environment and so forth in a product company than in a consultancy, because usually the product companies have a different perspective on software development as opposed to many consultancy. That is not always true. There are a lot of consultancies that are an exception to this rule, but in general terms, this is the case. And for those of you who may not be so aware of the differences, a product company is usually a company such as Google, Facebook, uh, Spotify, etc., etc. A company that has a digital product that they are selling to somebody. A consultancy is usually a company who is either renting out developers to other companies that need developers, or they take on projects that different companies needs to be delivered. So an example would be, let's say that a bakery or a mechanic shop or something like that, they need a digital system to do something. Well, then they can order they order that system from a consultancy, and they will build that system on request instead of as with Google, where or whichever company that they have like a digital product that they're just marketing and selling to different people. So that is what I like about product companies. And the thing is, though, for me, it's not so important whether or not I work in a product company or a consultancy, because I've been working in both. More time in product companies, definitely, because, as I said, it is my preference. But the reason why that is my preference is not necessarily because I just think it's better to be part of a product company. It is because the needs that I have had in my professional development have been found in those specific product companies. So an example would be, if you want to have access to a lot of senior coworkers and a lot of, let's say that you're a junior developer and you need a lot of training and help and assistance and so forth, well, then a product company is usually a very good place to start, because it's very likely that you will have that sort of work environment when you're part of a product company. A consultancy, not as likely. It depends on the consultancy, of course, but consultancies, as I said, they have a different way of doing things, and it usually reflects a lot in the work environment. And I can't go into like all the differences between them, but one of those differences would be that it's very common that consultants work not alone, but they are more isolated from each other, and there's less of a team dynamic in consultancies in many cases. That's not, as I said, always true, but it is definitely a trend. That is a difference between the product companies and the consultancies. That is so. If you're looking to get a lot of mentors and a lot of assistance, a product company is usually a very good place to go. And at one point, that was the thing that I needed, so I went to a product company. I tried to do that, and it worked out absolutely swimmingly. And if, let's say that you want to work on your quality processes, such as testing and so forth, and go and get, or work at scale, etc., etc. Well, then usually, if you want to work at really large scale with quality processes such as test-driven development, etc., etc., then a product company is again probably the best place to go, because their focus is usually more on uh, a a good process of delivering value to their customer, because their customer is buying this product that they're selling, and if that product is shit, well, they're going to lose their customers. A consultancy, on the other hand, they don't have that same restriction, because they don't have one product that they're selling. They have projects, they have multiple projects, and all they really have to do is to deliver on that project within the time restriction or within the deadline, which brings a much more like fast moving or like ad hoc way of solving problems that in many cases can lead to worse software, which is one of the criticisms a lot of people give consultancies, that if you have a good, I mean, if you have a good consultant, you will have a really, really good result from the interaction. If you have a bad one, they can basically fuck up the whole system for you. That is, of course, possible in a product company, but as I said, since they're product companies are usually in it for the long haul, it's less likely that happens. But then there is this other side, which for me is why I want to be part of a consultancy. When I well, when I have the need to do certain types of work or certain personal developments, then this is the way to work. An example would be if you want to be more involved and have a better understanding of the business part of running an IT company, then a consultancy is a very, very good place to start. Or it's a very good place to be. If you wanted to start your own IT company, become your own, or a freelancer or something like that, it's absolutely great to in the first part of your career to be in a product company. But it's actually not that common to see a product company developer or to develop the sort of skills that are required to just make it, start up their own company and then kind of just go from there. You're more likely to, when you're starting out, to be in a situation that is very similar to what a consultancy is about, and hunting customers and dealing with stakeholders and a lot of different types of projects and different stakeholders and all of that sort of stuff that comes with being a consultant. Well, that's a very good environment to be in if you want to learn that stuff. Another thing that I think is really, really great about consultancies is the diversity. The diversity is not super great when you're in your earlier stages as a software developer. At least that's not what I think. But once you have a bit of seniority, this is really, really nice, because if you want to have a really broad CV, I don't think that there is anything that you could do to help your career more than to be a consultant, because you can basically, if you're in the right one, you can switch projects. They usually have multiple different projects and multiple different customers. If you're in a product company, they have the stack that they have, and you're kind of stuck with that stack. But if you want to move around a lot, well, in the right product company that might be possible, but in the wrong one you don't really have that option. But in a consultancy you do, and in some cases that is perfect. An example would be, let's say that you wanted to be a really, really good DevOps engineer or an operations person. Well, working at this, either like if you go to a product company, odds are that you're going to learn some of the base skills, but to get really, really good at something like that, you kind of have to approach it from different angles. Because if you go and become a DevOps engineer at this lazy super system type of company where, well, they just have a bunch of scripts and everything's kind of already done, well, then all you really are is like a glorified on-call person. You kind of just learn all the things about their system, and now you're an operations person in their system. That's not going to give you all that much diversity and maturity in your role as an operations person. But if you're in a consultancy, you can decide to involve yourself in different companies who face different challenges. You can say, all right, I've been at this really big company now, and I know how it works with having like hundreds and thousands of services and boxes and so forth, and dealing with like really, really large systems. But then there's this company over here, they're transitioning from their on-prem solution over to a cloud solution. Well, if you are a consultant, you can be involved in that journey. You can, of course, get there as well if you go into a product company, but I hope you can see my point. You can really like just decide that, I really need to know what are the challenges and how do you have to structure things in order to do like a multi-cloud solution or a half on-prem, half cloud solution, like all of these different complexities that a lot of companies have. It's really hard for you to get those challenges by just being in the same product company, but in a consultancy role you can actually really find those challenges. So there's a lot of experiences that you can get from just having the ability to face a lot of different companies, different types of problems, if that makes sense. So what I want you to take away from this is that on average, I think I prefer product companies. because you have usually more control over the people you work with and more influence over your work processes, and there's usually more of a quality mindset around the software delivery process, which are all good things. In a consultancy, you have less control in many cases. If you're in a good consultancy, they might let you influence which projects that you pick. But what's really nice about consultancies is that you usually have the ability to move around more, and you might be able to, in some cases it's actually the best place for you to be, because certain roles within IT, they're really hard to get good at unless you get a lot of diversity. You need a lot of different types of challenges, and that is what a consultancy can give you. Security work and operations type of work are very good examples of where you really want to try different companies and different scales and different types of slicing that cake in order to figure out, okay, what's going to work and what's not going to work. It's going to mature you a lot in your role as a security person or an ops person. But for, say, a junior software developer, that might not be the best thing. It might be better for you to work in a product company where it's a little bit more stable and you might have access to peers and seniors and so forth. Have a great day.